Chapter 4. I must calm down. I will find a way back home. But what if I don't? Tara cried, making herself worry more. Not even pretending to be Robin Hood was helping. Somehow it was adding to her fears. If she was Robin Hood, she figured she would have been able to find her way home, and certainly would be able to remain calm. Near tears, she sat down in her shelter to keep herself cool from the sun's beating heat, and to give herself the time to settle down to plan her next move. At Glowing Springs in the school cafeteria, Charmaine and Liliana sat quieter than normal. Maybe Tara will be back tomorrow, softly proposed Charmaine with barely any emotion. Liliana nodded. They could only hope their dear friend was all right, but it was really bothering them. Then Mrs. Melody came out of nowhere and walked over to their table. The two friends glanced up and observed the fear reflected on their teacher's features. Her eyes displayed something wasn't right and was upsetting her. Taking a breath, she dissipated the portrayal of her emotions. "Hello, girls. I just went up to the high school and was talking to Beth," Mrs. Melody started. "Oh, is Tara all right? Will she be back tomorrow? Why hasn't she been here basically all week? What is going on?" Charmaine cut in, clearly terrified beyond her control. "I do not know when she will be back, nor if she is all right." Their teacher trailed off, with her emotions surfacing again. "Oh dear, what happened? Is there anything we can do to help? What is going on? Please tell us what we may do to assist our dear friend." "Yes, please tell us. We want to lend a hand more than anything," added Liliana, with fear shimmering in her sparkling eyes. As she spoke, her voice lowered in sorrow. "That's great you want to help, but I don't know what you can do. Tara has gone missing." "What? Missing?" exclaimed Charmaine loudly, that the entire lunchroom likely heard her cry. "That's horrible. Did her parents try calling the police? They can be a big help," sought Liliana, being the only one thinking logically. "Yes, they have tried that, but the police weren't much help at all, shockingly. They're quite busy at this time, dealing with severe cases around town. At least that's what they told Beth. I have to get going and actually eat my own lunch, but I thought I would let you two know as you are Tara's closest friends." "Well, thank you for telling us," Charmaine stated, and Mrs. Melody walked out of the lunchroom. "After school today, we will go to Tara's house and see what we can do to help look for her. There will surely be something we can do to aid Beth and Nick. Without the police helping, they will need all the help they can get. Your parents won't mind, will they?" "My parents won't mind at all. What time will we meet there?" questioned Liliana. "About 4 o'clock. That way you can tell your parents you are going to Tara's," Charmaine declared. A light sigh floated from her, and she felt 1,000 times better, knowing she could spend her hours in the afternoon trying to find her best friend, instead of concerning herself with why Tara was not at school yet another day. As for Mrs. Melody, she wasn't actually sure she felt up to eating lunch today, but had said that because she needed to escape before the two girls would see her cry. She glanced in the faculty room and saw Miss Sarah sitting there with the seat across from her empty, clearly waiting for her. Walking in would mean everyone in the faculty room would see her crying, but she wanted to talk to her best friend more than anything. Just then Miss Sarah looked up and saw her standing by the door. She hurried over and embraced Mrs. Melody. "What's the matter?" she implored. Mrs. Melody answered, "I thought Tara was going to be fine, but now I'm not so sure. I was just talking to Beth, and she said the police declared they were too busy at that moment to help look. As a result, her parents and whoever saw the posters are the only ones out searching. It's not enough." Miss Sarah nodded, thinking the same thing, but having never admitted it before. A little later, the younger children were out at recess. It was such a beautiful day out that the teachers let the students out for 30 minutes more during recess. Kate normally would play with her friends, but today she was spending time talking to Miss Sarah. She had brought a map of the Smoky Mountains with her to plan later that day with her teacher. Using the map, she showed her several key points of the mountains to be aware of, such as cliffs that appeared suddenly and water willow. Kate explained various symbols drawn on it. The two examined the trails they needed to search and came to the conclusion Miss Sarah would go east and Kate would go west. "What time will you come today?" inquired Kate, because she was one of those people that needed to know every tiny detail at all times. "Same time as yesterday," Miss Sarah responded, a little tearful, glad to know they had a way of searching for Tara quicker. Hopefully, with a better plan, they would have some luck and be able to bring Tara home. It was the perfect plan. Meanwhile, at the sea of paper, Tara sat in her stick shelter. She stared out at the land before her and the still water. On the breeze, it brought an idea. She thought even though the sea is made of paper, maybe she could make a raft and row her way back home. Her courage returning, she hurried out of her shelter to go collect material. She found quite a few large sticks not far from the entrance of the jungle. Then Tahra used some vines to tie them together, as she learned from a Survivor TV show she used to watch. For a paddle, she found a wide stick, but it also was a decent length. To make it easier to paddle, Tahra pulled her rock out of her pocket. With her rock, she began to scrape the wood to make it smooth. She worked quickly, not having the patience to make the paddle look good, but it had to be flat. As she worked, she wondered if it would make a difference if she had left the branch round instead of taking the time to put it in the form of a paddle. She pushed the thought from her mind and proceeded to scrape away on the wood. Out in the forest, Mrs. Melody stood by the glowing river. She touched the surface with her fingers and glanced at the beautiful waterfall. It had been so long, but she only knew one person other than Daniel that could help her. Then, without thinking twice, she leapt into the river. There before her stood a majestic woman with long hair draped over her shoulders. The sun hit her wings and sent a sparkling reflection in all directions. "Queen Stella, it's so wonderful to see you again. I'm sorry it's been a while," cried Melody, embracing her mentor. Queen Stella chimed, "I'm glad for any time you can spare. So tell me, how is it going in Glowing Springs? I hate to bring it up, but any luck on solutions for breaking the curse on your daughter Cadence?" Melody sighed, "No, but I feel I may be coming near an idea. However, that is not my concern of the moment. One of my dear students, Tahra, has gone missing. Worry not about her. She is fine, trust me. Your prediction of her having magic is correct, and she is simply learning that for the first time. She accidentally landed herself in another world and is trying to find her way home. You mustn't tell anyone, though. But everyone is terrified and searching endlessly for her." "Indeed, but if you go to Beth and tell her Tahra is fine and in another world, she would ask how you knew. That would lead into the discussion you don't want to have. You'd have to reveal who you are, and Beth or anyone else you bring this up to would ask a ton more questions. All you can do is assure them Tahra is okay because she is strong." They said a few more things, and Mrs. Melody relaxed for a moment. After a silence passed, the Fairy Queen stated, "You are worried for Tahra and thinking about Cadence, but I know there is something else. Do you want to talk about that yet?" "You already know?" "Melody, I told you 1,000 times. I am the Queen of Dewdrop Kingdom, the kingdom that can oversee all the other magical realms. I especially pay extra attention to any trace of magic in Daniel's world. I can see if I desire where my daughter Maeve is, and I can sense when a new being is created." She grinned and took Mrs. Melody's hand. With hers on top, she placed their hands on Melody's belly. The teacher sighed and a tear slipped free. I know what has you so concerned." "Yes, which is why I came to you. I need to know everything will be fine. I can't see the future. I can make no promises, but I will do my best to protect her." "Her? Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to let that slip." Melody chuckled. "It's all right. How can you protect her from the same fate as Cadence?" Queen Stella thought and then lit up. Without a warning, she sent a magic beam straight at Melody's midsection and threw her arms around herself. "What was that?" she demanded. The queen informed, "The witch will not be able to see your daughter and won't ever find out about her." "Thank you." "You're welcome, and I'll make sure, if she does find out somehow, to do everything in my power to get to you first and keep her safe." "I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me." She embraced Queen Stella and held on to her for a long moment. At the Strong's house, Beth pulled into the driveway as Liliana and Charmaine arrived. The two of them came together and were driven by Charmaine's father. She was so thankful to have a dad that was always taking her and Liliana places. He asked the girls, before they scampered out, "What time do you want me to come pick you up?" Charmaine answered, "I'm not sure. I'll give you a call when all is done and we are ready to head home." "Liliana, you don't have a certain time you must be home by, do you?" "I do not," she informed. Charmaine's dad nodded, and the two hurried to get out of the vehicle. Beth got out of her car carrying her work bag and walked over to the two friends. "Hello, Charmaine and Liliana. What brings you here?" Beth greeted. "How can we help find Tahra?" demanded Charmaine. "Well, you can take Scarlet and Moonlight and search the mountains, where the mountains are huge. Let's go talk to Miss Sarah and Kate and see where they're searching, and then you two can handle the directions not being taken care of." The three of them walked over to the stable, where Miss Sarah and Kate were already preparing the horses to ride out. Upon seeing the two girls, Miss Sarah smiled but didn't say anything. They politely smiled back. Kate said to them, "Hey guys, glad to see you. It means a lot to our family having you come help search for my sister." We need all the help we can possibly receive. Good luck finding her. Bring my dear sister home safe. We'll try our best. But where are you two going to be searching, and where should we search? Responded Charmaine. You can go north, as no one is going that way. Miss Sarah and I will be going east and west. What about me? Where should I search? Asked Liliana. You can go with Charmaine in that direction of the north, because after a half mile the trail splits. One can go to the left and the other right, replied Beth. Give me a minute. I will go get you two a map so you can mark the path with a highlighter. If you want, you may start to get Scarlet and Moonlight ready to go. What about you? Where are you going to search? Liliana questioned curiously. I'm going to go down to town and ask around. You never know, perhaps she's there, or maybe someone knows something. They nodded and went to prepare the two horses as Kate and Miss Sarah finished. A moment before Kate and Miss Sarah were about to ride off to search for Tahra, Kate inquired for fear that Miss Sarah had hardly any experience with horses, and was unfamiliar with the trails of the mountains. Are you sure you will be fine on your own? I'll be fine. After all, I do have a map, Miss Sarah replied, reassuring Kate there was no possible way anything could go wrong. She smiled to emphasize all she would be well. Kate grinned. All right, then will meet you back here at 7 o'clock. Unless you get on a trail of Tahra, then of course keep going until you find her. Miss Sarah nodded as she spared a glance at her watch, and then she trotted off east on Crystal. Some time passed, and the two of them were well on their trail. Miss Sarah was looking at the map when the wind picked up and blew the map right out of her hands. Oh no, the map! After it, Crystal, she ordered in distress. She stopped paying attention where she was going, but luckily the mare was watching. All she was concerned about was getting the map, so she would not get stranded in the mountains, unable to find her way back to the strong house. The two of them were nearing a sudden cliff. Crystal began to slow down, and Miss Sarah didn't even notice, for she was too worried about the map. The map flew past the cliff. Crystal came to a halt by skidding only inches from the edge. Miss Sarah flew over the horse's head from the sudden stop of motion, and holding on the best either. Crystal snatched her teeth at Miss Sarah, trying to save her from falling, but only grabbing her shirt, which ripped. Miss Sarah flew over the ledge out of Crystal's sight. Out of instinct, she put her hands to break her fall and shut her eyes terrified. Her right arm slammed against the ground and she rolled from impact. Thankfully, she did not get hurt and felt fine, or so she thought. She pushed herself up into a sitting position and then noticed a throbbing pain in her right arm. Even touching it lightly sent a jolt of discomfort through her entire body. She cradled her arm and tried not to think about it, but it was hurting quite a lot. Crystal ran quickly down the path to where Miss Sarah had fallen. She looked to Miss Sarah, worried she could be hurt, but the teacher smiled and claimed, I am all right, Crystal. Then she started to get up. Crystal assisted by letting her use her left arm to hold onto her muzzle. The smart mare could tell she was in pain and knelt down so Miss Sarah could carefully climb back on. I know it's early, but without a map we could get lost, so I think we should head back now. Crystal nodded in agreement. Although Crystal knew her way around the mountains even better than Kate, she still wanted to head back in case Miss Sarah was not all right. Meanwhile, Kate was riding Lily quietly through the pass, listening for any sign of Tahra. However, the only sound that could be heard was Lily's hoofsteps and the birds in the trees. All of a sudden, a piece of paper slapped Kate in the face. She took it off and looked at it. It was Miss Sarah's map. I wonder how this got here. I hope Miss Sarah didn't get hurt or lost. What if something bad happened? Kate pondered out loud. Lily understood that Kate was worried and gave her a reassuring neigh. Crystal knows these mountains as well as I do. If something happened to Miss Sarah, she would go back home and take us to her. So I think we should head back, just in case. Lily dipped her head, completely understanding, and cantered off at once in the direction they had come from. Kate hated they had to turn back instead of proceeding on the search, but she didn't want her teacher to be stranded somewhere alone, or maybe even injured. Then it crossed her mind, what if her dear sister was lost somewhere and badly hurt? That would explain why she had not returned home. More terror pulsed through the young child, and she urged Lily to gallop even faster. At the same moment, Tahra finished making the paddle. She got ready to climb aboard the raft, but was a little hesitant. She thought, the water is made of paper. Would the raft move? Is it even possible? Her knees began shaking. Her hands began to tremble. She had no idea what land or strange place the sea of paper would lead to, but she knew she had to try and hope it led home. Tahra planned if the raft does move and she ended up in a different country, somehow she'd get a plane ticket home or find some other way. In a foreign place, she could try to find, in the very least, a public phone and call her house to let her parents know she is all right. Tahra took a deep breath and carefully took a step onto the raft. She sat down in the center of the raft so the raft would not be unbalanced. She then grabbed the paddle she had made. Taking another deep breath, she gently put the paddle in the sea of paper. She moved the paddle, but nothing happened. Tahra tried again and again. After 5 minutes, she pulled the raft back on land, disappointed. Tears pricked her eyes, but she wiped them away before any could fall. Back on the mountains, Miss Sarah and Kate got back to the house at the same time. Kate trotted up beside her teacher on her right side. "I believe you lost this," snickered Kate, half sarcastic, and holding out the map. Miss Sarah replied back in the same tone. Yes, a map would be helpful. Reaching across her body, Miss Sarah grabbed the map with her left hand. Kate looked at her with a confused look. "What?" "Nothing. I was just wondering why you used your left hand instead of your right, especially since your right is closer." "Oh, that's nothing. I fell and now my arm hurts, that's all. Probably from the impact. I'm sure it will be perfectly fine in a few hours. I will head home and put some ice on, then it will be fine. And the worst, I will probably twisted it or bruised it," she bluffed. "You might have broken it," Kate cried abruptly with concern. She could tell Miss Sarah was lying about how much her arm actually pained her, and feared it was far worse than she was saying. Perhaps she even knew it was broken, and she didn't want to concern Kate. It was obvious, though, from the discomfort printed on her face, she was not close to being fine. On the far calmer side, Tahra sat in her shelter, assuming there is absolutely no way home. Defeated, tears rolled down her cheeks, and she rested her head on her folded arms upon her knees. After several moments, she decided instead of just sitting there, being bored and miserable, she would go swimming in the stream. Tahra loved spring and swimming whenever she got a chance, so she was really thankful for the warm April air. Perhaps she would be able to wash away her worries in refreshing water. She tried to remain strong and remember her little game, but even being Robin Hood couldn't cheer her up. Tahra hoped diving into the water would be enough to clear her mind and help her regain her confidence that there was still a way home. Maybe she would even think of a solution as to where to look next or what to do. Back at the house, Kate was walking through the house with Miss Sarah following. "It should be in this closet," spoke Kate, half to herself and half to Miss Sarah. Kate opened up the 1-foot-wide closet door. Pulling a stool over, she stepped up and reached up to the one shelf and got down a dark blue sling. They have a sling because once Beth pulled a muscle in her arm and it hurt to move it, although it was nothing serious. Kate very cautiously put the sling on Miss Sarah's arm. She was so thankful she had watched her mother, during the time she wore it, take it on and off. Otherwise, she wouldn't have known how to put it on her teacher. Then they heard a low rumble sound of an engine. They looked out the window to see a sparkly black Hummer pull up. "My mom is home. Come on, let's go," Kate stated. "Kate, you're back from the mountains early," claimed Beth, astonished. "I know I'm back early, too, but I need to get something that I forgot." "Yeah, well," Kate stepped aside and Miss Sarah stepped forward off of the front porch. "Miss Sarah, what happened? Are you all right?" "Let's just say I fell," Miss Sarah replied modestly. Beth looked over at Kate and smiled. "I'm proud of you for knowing it would be best to put her arm in a sling, but we better make sure it isn't broken." Kate shot Miss Sarah a look that scolded. "I told you it could be broken." Miss Sarah didn't argue with them, and all three of them climbed in Beth's car. Miss Sarah wanted to deny help, but it was really paining her a ton, so she allowed them to aid her. She sat silently, bothered by the fact she was keeping both Kate and Beth from searching for their dear Tahra. She hated adding to people's burden, and she felt like she often was. A soft sigh escaped her, and Kate glanced over at her. Miss Sarah forced a smile to reassure her student everything was okay, even though it clearly wasn't. At the sea of paper, Tahra climbed out of the stream. As she walked back to her shelter, a calm wind slowly dried her. The water helped her feel refreshed and calm as all her worries sailed away downstream. She carried her sweatshirt over her one arm. When she went in the stream, Tahra took it off, but left the rest of her clothing on. She thought of being in the stream without clothing on terrified her because it was out in the open, even though no one, nor animals, were around. Today, more than ever, silence was driving her nuts, and she longed to be home with her family and friends, to have them to talk to. She returned to the beach and near her shelter lied down on the golden sand and let the afternoon sun rays beat down on her. She closed her eyes to shield them from the blinding light. It was so relaxing. Finally, she reached content and kept her thoughts from everything she was missing. It It was pleasant feeling the sun chase the drops of water off of her and soak them into the sand beside her. A slight smile tugged on her lips, and she let her mind be clear of any thoughts. Meanwhile, Beth arrived at the local doctor's office in town. "I'm so sorry, Miss Sarah," Kate murmured sympathetically while waiting in the waiting room. "For what? My arm?" laughed Miss Sarah like it was nothing. "Yeah. Oh, don't worry about it. Besides, you had nothing to do with it. I was the fool who wasn't watching where I was leading Crystal. I'm glad she didn't get hurt, though, or else I would never forgive myself. But you don't need to worry about me." "But it's fine," Miss Sarah reassured. Kate didn't know why, but for some reason she blamed herself. Perhaps it was because it had been her idea to separate, and she trusted her teacher in unfamiliar territory on her own. Kate waited a minute before speaking again. "Miss Sarah, I think it would be best if you don't help us any more." "Why?" Miss Sarah responded, practically upset and a little hurt. "I do not want you to get hurt again, or more," Kate explained. "I'll be much more careful from now on. Today I was not thinking clearly, nor paying much attention as to what I was doing." It didn't help that she did not have the best night of sleep either. All night she kept tossing and turning and couldn't sleep, so now today she couldn't think as clearly as she normally would. However, she did not want to admit that to Kate, so she kept quiet. "I know, but I do not want to take any chances. Tahra means a lot to me, and I want to do whatever I can to help her. She is still out there somewhere and could very well be injured far worse than I am. Kate, I have to keep helping before something terrible happens to her, and right now you need all the assistance you can get." Kate was silent as the horrible nightmare flashed in her mind. More than anything, she did not want that to be the fate of her dear sister. Miss Sarah's mind filled with flashbacks. She remembered back to the times when Tahra was her student. Miss Sarah pictured Tahra coming up and telling her all about Tahra's weekend or even the night before. Miss Sarah also remembered whenever her student would come up with a new song, she would sing it to her first. She remembered back to the last day of that school year, Tahra and herself knowing how much they were going to miss each other. The two had gotten very close because Beth had been in and out of the hospital much of that year. She had been very sick for a while, several years, but it would flare up every now and then. It bothered Tahra having her mother confined to a bed or worse, having to remain in the hospital. As a result, Tahra felt alone much of the time, so Miss Sarah became a mother figure to the little girl. She comforted her and tried to cheer her up. The bond between them became unbreakable, which was why Miss Sarah was taking her being missing so hard. The very last day of school that year, Tahra made a promise to Miss Sarah, stating she would come visit whenever she got free time, which of course she did. Tahra was like a daughter to her, so searching for her meant everything to her, and she didn't care if she would risk her own life. "Sarah Miller?" The nurse's voice interrupted the flashbacks. Beth, Kate, and Miss Sarah all walked back to the x-ray room because she didn't want to go alone. Kate helped Miss Sarah take off the sling, careful not to harm her arm anymore. "I'm sorry, Miss Sarah. I should have realized how important Tahra is to you, too," cried Kate, as if she had seen all those flashbacks. "You can help look for her if you wish." "Thank you," replied Miss Sarah, grateful. Being it only her arm that needed examined, the nurse decided to use a smaller x-ray. It took several minutes until the image was ready to be looked at. "Well, it appears you broke your ulna in 2 places. Let's go get your arm in a cast," the nurse informed the small group. Miss Sarah came back into the room with a yellow cast on her right arm. "Will I be able to write with my right hand?" inquired Miss Sarah, worried how she would teach. "Yes, but it is not going to be the easiest task. If you do, you will have to be very cautious not to bring your arm any more harm. It could be better if you use your left hand or have a friend write everything for you." She nodded, vowing she would be careful. Beth cut in. "Miss Sarah, would you like me to drop you off at your house on our way back?" Shyly, she responded, "You don't have to. I left my bike at your place and need to get that." "It's fine. I'll drive back and pick it up. Then I can drop you and your bike off. That way you get home safe." "You really don't have to." "But I want to." "Well, thank you. I really appreciate it." "Given everything you've done for me and my family, it's the very least I can do." "Please, anything you need, let me know. Would you like me to drive you to school until it's healed?" "No, it's fine. I can try to maneuver my bike, or I could always leave earlier and walk. Please, I wouldn't want to trouble you." "Miss Sarah, you are on the way to school. I pass your house every time I leave the mountains." "I know, but still." "All right. Well, give me a call if you change your mind." While all of this was happening, over in the police station, Marietta sat at her desk, staring blankly into space. "Christina, can you come here, please?" she called, knowing her friend would hear her, as her office was only a few feet from the front desk and the door was open. In a second, Christina appeared in the doorway. Before she could speak, the chief continued. The phone call the other day. I cannot shake the feeling the case was brushed under the carpet. Was the child found? Christina sucked in her breath, knowing she had completely forgot about it, other than sending Abby out. However, then a large mission came up, and carelessly she assigned Abby as part of that group, meaning no one was out searching for the girl. Without answering the question, she replied, Everything is fine. What does that mean? Did you send out units? Did they find the child? Tell me, I need to know. If you forgot, we will check with the family if the child was found. If the child has not been found, we will send out our units immediately. Relax, I told you I got it covered. Oh, and as a heads up, my boyfriend, Chris, will be stopping by. He said he wants to take me out to dinner tonight. Isn't he just the best? It would seem that way. I find it so amusing how your names are so similar. I know, right? We are totally meant to be. You know, if you went out looking, you would find yourself a man as amazing for yourself. Christina, I don't have time for foolish games. Besides, it's not worth risking getting hurt. Not everyone has the intention to cause harm, and you would see that if you lowered your walls. That's not happening. I put them there for a reason. I am perfectly content being alone. Now drop it. I told you before not to bring it up. Oh, come on, I haven't even mentioned her. Marietta sighed and crossed her arms over her chest with tears starting to prick her eyes. Christina quickly retreated. I am so sorry. I am going to go. She exited the room and pulled the door closed. Marietta sat there for a long moment, letting her mind dwell on the past, until she realized she was practically panting and suffocating. Immediately, she turned to the folder beside her to look over the cases she was currently tackling to take her mind off of everything. A few minutes later, she stood up and opened her office door. She slowly stepped out and turned to face the front desk. There she saw Chris with Christina. He must have just arrived because Christina was only now standing up from the chair. She went over to him and he hugged her tight before stealing a kiss. Her cheeks flushed. Marietta smiled. Deep down, a part of her longed to know what it would be like to love someone and be loved. However, she refused to ever let that happen. So, in the least, she could experience it through her best friend. Christina, suddenly feeling she was being watched, turned and saw the chief. I'm going to head out if that's all right with you, she informed. Yes, of course. I will see you tomorrow. Enjoy your evening.